what players are really paying for when they pay for your game sessions. This is why I believe we should run it. I don't believe that they're just paying to play a session. They're not paying you as a service. What they're paying for is exclusive access to your table. This is the proper way to think about it, in my opinion. If you are thinking about it as a service, I think there's a whole range of problems that come with that. Hello friends, welcome back for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher. This is the channel where we empower game masters to run better games. It is summer vibes right now, guys. That's why I'm wearing my tank top. Got my Jaws tank top on, got my shades on because I was just outside. It is sunny. There's going to be storms tonight, crazy Missouri weather. So it's sunny, summer today, and then tonight it's going to be like a hurricane out there. But I wanted to talk for a minute about something that I think most GMs overlook. And this matters because D&D and TTRPGs are a very social game. They're a social environment. And here is basically what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how if you want to be really successful at running games, this is true with paid games especially, but this is also true with free games. If you want to be really good at running games, you want to run very successful long-term games, then you must become really good at scaling unscalable activities. Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about this in marketing, and the same concept applies to running successful TTRPGs. And I'm going to explain what I mean. So there is a tendency always as humans for us to want to kind of take the easy way. We want to do things the easy way. We want to kind of automate everything. We want to make things super simple, super efficient, super streamlined so that we're not putting a bunch of extra effort in and having all these extra steps to do stuff. This can be very tempting when we are running games because running games is already a labor-intensive endeavor. You are already the backbone of the group. You're probably organizing the community. You're probably doing all the prep. You're doing a lot of things to help facilitate the game. So you're working hours even when the players aren't. And then when you're all gaming, you've got to get there first. You've got to be the last one to leave. And then also you might have to do things between game sessions, like extra hours of prep, messaging players, etc. Now, this is especially true when you're running paid games because when you're running paid games, you're going to have situations where players are going to jump in and leave, and you're going to have to maybe onboard players constantly. You're going to have situations like this, especially at first while you're finding your footing. I'm learning this as I go through the process. By the way, if you want to play one of my games, I have game listings available on my Start Playing profile. Check the link down in the description. However, here's what I'm talking about. If we try too much to streamline our D&D system, right? If we say things like, I don't run session zeros because it's unsustainable, or I always onboard like this, or I don't message my gamers between games because I don't have time, or, the lore is the lore, I'm not going to homebrew a bunch of extra stuff for you. I don't have time. If we take this approach to it, then we're going to suffer from not building the kind of glue with our players that will keep them coming back and also keep the game feeling awesome. There is a lot of creative work that can go on between sessions to help make each session better. And let me just give you a few examples. I actually do not run like session zeros individually for my gamers anymore because it actually did become a process that I saw as unsustainable that didn't contribute to players staying in the game in any kind of meaningful way. What I have done is I have created a really good onboarding process that I can send to players via Discord, and then they can message me and I will message back and forth with them to hammer things out, like the backstory of their character, helping them with their warlock patron, helping them with homebrew stuff, approving homebrew things. I've got players who are homebrewing cool subclasses, even species. I love this. So these are all things that I'm doing between sessions that, you kind of have to feel out. There is no real set, like efficient process for these things. You just have to sit down and spend time on them. But at the same time, this time spent, if you spend it wisely, is going to be time that's going to build the emotional resonance of the session. And emotional resonance is what keeps players coming back. By the way, I wrote an ebook all about this. It's called The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery. Link to this is down in the description. This is my premium ebook, the best thing I've written to date on how to run emotionally resonant games, keep your players coming back for more. 24 years of running games. That's how long I've been running games, packed into 50 pages of deep philosophy, insights, and tactics for the experienced GM. If you want to increase the emotional resonance in your games, you want to learn my secrets that took me decades to learn, friends. I put them all in this book. Link is in the description. This book is available for a short time longer at its introductory low price. The price is going to go up when I release my next product. Probably this book or this ebook may also fade a bit into the background when I start promoting my new product when it comes out, which is still a secret. So grab this limited time availability. You do not want to miss out on it. Links in the description. If you're really serious about your games, I would encourage you to pick it up. But emotional resonance is built just as much between sessions as during the sessions, okay? Now, another thing that happens between sessions, like just talking to players about the sessions. I've had players message me. I've had them, say, hey, when I did this, was that okay? Or I would really love for this to happen. I'd really love for this to happen, right? This is all stuff that is not scalable. Like you can't really develop processes for this. It's just human stuff. I also do things like I share the transcript of the game after the game with the players. I do things like, I post a poll and have players vote on who the player of the game was. They get storyline points. They can spend them. These are things you can process at times. But there are some things that are going to happen that you cannot plan on. For example, another example, I have in one of my games, I had a player join. And my process right now is that players create their characters in either a published D&D world or in their world, and then my convergence phenomenon, which is like a magic phenomenon, pulls them randomly into my world. So there is zero knowledge of my world needed for them to create their character, because they create their character in a different world with that world's lore, and then they come into my world and they learn through exploring. I think this is really fun, and I think it's more sustainable. However, I had one player who really liked my lore and asked me, hey, can I create my character in your world, basically, instead of doing the convergence thing? This is going to create extra work for me. This is going to create, I do extra things, but that's what they wanted to do. I picked up on that and I'm like, absolutely, let's do it. So I sent them a bunch of lore and I reverted back to a more in-depth, via Discord Messenger session 0 type process to help not only give them information about where they wanted to come from in the world and kind of that would apply to their story, but also some warlock patrons, because they're going to be a warlock and all kinds of stuff. I even had to put together a brand new guide for one of the warlock patrons that I've been developing lately and put that in there. So the thing is that, this was not part of a normal process. This was not something I was planned on. This is something that took time out of my day. But do I want to do that? Yes. Why do I want to do that? I want to do that because I care about the game and I care about the players and I want them to have a great experience. I want to run amazing games that make players feel like the games have a soul, that make them want to keep coming back, that make them really invested, because I believe in TTRPGs. I believe in the craft, and I believe that when we game together and we tell the stories of these characters, we create ephemeral art that is actually really meaningful, and it can change our perceptions of ourselves. It can change our life. It can help us to reach new levels of enlightenment, and it can just be a whole lot of fun. But it's only fun if everyone is committed, if everyone loves it, if everyone is engaged, if they're emotionally resonating. That's the only way it becomes fun and beneficial. But sometimes to really make that happen, you have to do unscalable things at scale. And it's going to take time and it's going to take energy. And I'm going to be really honest, even if you're running paid games, this is all stuff you're not going to get paid for, because what players are really paying for when they pay for your game sessions, this is why I believe we should run it. I don't believe that they're just paying to play a session. They're not paying you as a service. What they're paying for is exclusive access to your table. This is the proper way to think about it, in my opinion. If you are thinking about it as a service, I think there's a whole range of problems that come with that. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. If you want to talk about that, maybe I'll make a video about that. But we are actually fostering a table, and what we're charging for is exclusive access to our table for players who want to play in our games, and then we want to give them a great experience. So you're not really making any more money by doing all this extra stuff. So why would you do it? Well, that therein lies the answer. Why would you do it? Because you love the craft and you want to make it the best ever. And that is why you will be successful at running games, and why you will actually, if you're running paid games, you will turn it into a better money-making opportunity, because you're not focused on the money first. You're focusing on the value of the story and the narrative, and equipping your players with everything they need to come to the next session ready to just rock and roll. And when you care so much more about that than about the money, if the money's like a distant priority to you, but what's a real priority is making sure that, the characters they have all the lore they need, making sure that you've walked through everything in between sessions. I'm not saying to quit your job and spend 40 hours a week just talking to your players between your game sessions. We have to be reasonable, but we also have to understand that the more energy we put into these unscalable activities in a meaningful way, in strategic ways, in the ways that matter, the more likely we are to actually cultivate games that players are going to keep wanting to come back to and keep engaging in with us. So when I say, you don't need to spend 40 hours a week doing things in between sessions, I really mean that. We have to find a balance. We have to find a program that works for us, right? You have to find a program where maybe you sit down after work for half an hour and you message with your players, or maybe, 2 hours before the session, you catch up on things, or maybe during the weekend between sessions, you're jumping in and doing, whatever it is, whatever works for you. For me, I check in multiple times a day, check for messages from my players. Right now, I'm even a little bit behind. I've got 3 games almost full right now, and I've got another one getting ready to fill up. Like I just launched a 4th one with the first player in it. So, I'm a little bit behind still, and I'm still trying to catch up because my life's been going through a lot of transitions. But I notice unequivocally that when I get really good at putting this effort into the games, when I really apply myself to making sure I'm staying on top of these unscalable human interactions with the players between games, my sessions flow way better. The stories become way more epic. The players seem to have a better time. They seem more engaged. And I just cultivate a better relationship with them. This is another form of glue that keeps people in your games. If you don't have any of this going on, it's going to strictly be, is your game good enough to hold their attention? And is it exactly the kind of game they want to play? If you're running paid games and that is not the case, players will leave after one session, because why else would they stay? They're looking for a specific type of game experience. But when you cultivate friendship, this is another kind of glue that holds groups together. When you cultivate shared lore and storytelling and you start to build emotional importance of that, that's another form of glue that keeps groups together. And when you form mutual respect, letting players actually have agency telling the story of the characters, this is another form of glue. Okay. So these other bits of glue are mostly formed outside of the session by learning how to scale unscalable social human activities where you never know what's going to come up. I've had players message me with complaints about other players. I've had players message me with complaints about the last session. Everyone else seemed to love it. One player had a complaint, wanted to talk through it. I've had players message me wanting to low-key role play via text between sessions with one of the NPCs. I've had players message me wanting to do a prayer ritual between sessions so that when we get to the next session, they could share the results of their prayer. I've had all kinds of things like this happen. I've had players message me homebrew spells and said, hey, can I take this when we level up? I've had players message me spells they want to take and then ideas for how they want to role play it thematically. I love this kind of stuff, but there is no there's not really a systematized way to handle all these things. And some GMs, they just don't put in that time and effort. Why? Maybe it's because they're playing video games. Maybe it's because they're watching shows. Maybe it's because they think if they're running paid games, well, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not doing this work. But friends, this is where the process and the beauty and the magic of TTRPGs starts to break down, in my opinion. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think about that. Also, if you want to talk about this stuff more, join my Discord. Links in the description. You can join for free. Come hang out with us. Be cool like the other cool kids. We are almost 600 GM strong in the GM Philosophy Discord right now. It is growing very fast every day, and we're doing awesome stuff in there, guys. GMs are posting their games in there. Players looking for games in there. Posting their art. People posting their lore, asking questions about mechanics. We have got contests going on in there. Join. It's a great time. And become a part of the community. However, if you really want to crush it at this, it's going to require you to deal with other humans in a human way. And that's a beautiful part of the process, because I believe TTRPGs are a human imagination experience. They're a human intellectual art experience. We create art through the role playing and the telling of the story, and then we create it and we're experiencing it, and then it vanishes. It's like Burning Man. That's the whole point of Burning Man, is people go to appreciate the beautiful art, and then on the final night of Burning Man, they light it on fire and it's gone. It's ephemeral art that you experience, but you don't always get to preserve it. You can't keep living in that moment. If you buy a painting, you can enjoy that painting forever, Playing in a TTRPG is different. Yes, you can record the session, but that's different than the experience of being in it and creating it in the moment. There is nothing that will top that level of excitement, that level of beauty, that level of imagination. That's what makes it special. But what makes it actually special is the fact that we're sitting there doing it with other people who are sharing in the narrative with us, sharing in the imagination of it. So I want to encourage you today, think about a couple ways that you can reach out to your group this week, or field questions this week, or interact with your group this week in human ways that will enhance your next session, and watch how it takes hold and makes your next session even more memorable. I bet you will be surprised by the results, and it'll make you want to keep it up. I really believe this. It does seem like a lot of work sometimes, but it's super worth it. All right, friends, that's what I have for this one. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. Roll some D100s for me at your next game, friends, and I will see you on the next one.